Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking with me, Denise Mejia, in Delaware, USA.
And me, Martin Ferber, in Preston, UK.
This weekly podcast is for anyone and everyone who'd like to know more about the fascinating subject of hypnosis and the benefits it offers.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist.
I'm a retired medical doctor turned consulting hypnotist.
We are Two Hypnotherapists Talking.
So let's get on with the episode.
Let's get on with the episode indeed. And our guest this week is Helen Breward from in the UK.
Hi, Helen. Good to see you again.
Thank you. And it's lovely to see you both too.
So, Helen, let's talk about the kind of hypnotherapy you do, because I'm not familiar with the type of stuff you do. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Tell our listeners.
So when I'm working with clients, and I didn't actually realise this, it was Cheryl Elman that told me actually what I was doing. I was just doing me, all right. Now, and then we all have to do ourselves, because there's only us that can do ourselves. And if we're going to do good and great hypnotherapy with clients, we have to do it as ourselves. Yeah. And we were chatting one day and she said, well, what you're actually saying, Helen, is that you're a client-centered hypnotherapist. And I went, oh yeah, hadn't realised that, because when I did my training, there was no title. You were just a hypnotherapist.
Right.
You know, I mean, nowadays there's things like a solution-focused hypnotherapist, there's a cognitive hypnotherapist, there's this, that and the other. And I thought, oh, that's what I do then. And it's quite, in some respects, it's not a label, but it's quite nice to know the type of hypnosis that I deliver is actually called this kind of thing. So, and then people will say to me, well, what do you mean by that? So, well, what I mean by that is when somebody comes to see me, I have a rough idea of what I'm going to do with you, but I actually don't know what I'm going to do with you till I have a chat with you. And whatever I decide to do with you is done in a way that is congruent with you, not a textbook, not a scripted list that I've got to follow it word by word, and I can't ad lib and I can't do this, that, and the other.
Right.
This is purely about you and for you in your way, kind of therapy.
And if you're not going to have that kind of client-centered work, then that you may as well just hand out tapes. But it has to be customized to the client completely, and customized to how the client is that day in that moment, because what they were feeling like last Saturday might be completely different.
Yeah.
Have you ever done an intake on a client? You've got a real good idea of what you're going to do, and they come in that day and it's just thrown out the
window. Yeah, absolutely. Happens very frequently. I have, before I work with a client, I get their notes out and I get a sheet of paper out and I write the name on the top and I look at what we did last time and I write literally one or two ideas of the techniques that I could do with them. It's not that often I'd actually do that. Yeah. Occasionally I can, but it's just a couple of ideas to get me, just to get me going if I need to get going or I need an idea. But 9 times out of 10, I end up doing something completely different because they've moved either further forward or they've moved one sideways or they've moved this way or that way. And now this has become a problem that's never been mentioned before. So then we need to work on that.
And I think sometimes that is just a product of the rapport you build with somebody. I wasn't going to mention this, but now I can see I can trust you with this piece of information.
Yeah,
or even just, would it work for this too? Can we talk about this? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I always say that with clients, the initial issue is never the issue. 2 or 3 sessions down the line, something else always comes out. And as you say, Denise, I think it's to do with rapport and trust, which, nobody will trust you 100% instantly from the first meeting.
Of course not.
It's got to be earned. And
you would worry about somebody that did.
Well, yeah.
The thing is, though, I was talking to a potential new client the other day, and it was a parents and their teenage child, let's say, and at one point, one of the parents looked at me and said, "I don't think they're giving you all the story," and I said, "That's absolutely fine. I know that, and that's what I am expecting." because they have to learn to trust me.
Yeah.
So this is fine. But no, honestly, it's fine. I have a few ideas of what else might be going on. But nobody is ever forced to say anything. You can talk about the weather. If all you want to do is talk about the weather, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you've got to build that rapport, that trust. People have to trust you before they can allow the real secret or whatever it is, the real issue, let's say, to come out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful world we work in.
Yeah, it is. It is a wonderful profession, isn't it? It is.
It is. It is.
How long
that's just part. That's just. Sorry, go on.
As I say, how long have you been a hypnotherapist?
12 years.
Okay. Did you come at it from another healing art or healing adjacent art? Just suddenly tickled your fancy and you studied it?
No. I'll tell you how it came about. I was a school teacher, a primary school teacher. So I taught those children from sort of 5 to 11. I loved them. I think they're on the same wavelength as me, especially the little ones. Saying, same intellectual level. It's great. Loved it. But I got to that point where there was too much stress, and I can't even begin to tell you how much stress was involved in teaching at that time.
Was Ofsted involved?
Yeah, that was one of them. That was one of the stresses. Just one. And it got to the point where I was spending, let's say, 90% of my time doing paperwork to deliver the 10% that I was there to actually do, not the 90% of paperwork and workload. So, when you're working over 70 hours every single week, day in, day out, without a break, then there comes a breaking point, and I broke.
And being compensated for 40. You remember that too. You're working
I think it was about 35 actually we were being compensated for. It wasn't nowhere near what we should have been, no. But when I came out of that, I found, and actually, do you know there's odd times in your life, isn't you, where there's a sentence somebody says to you, or something, a conversation you have that changes everything, isn't there?
Yeah.
This was my conversation. I'd just had an observation by the head teacher, right? And they always give you feedback, which is great. Feedback's good as long as it's done in a positive way. And she said to me, Helen, she said, yes. She said, that was a really good lesson. And I thought, okay. And I thought, here we go. What have I done wrong? And she went, I did notice that you were getting just a tiny little bit snippy with one of the children. I thought, yes, if you'd have had her like I've had her, you'd get a bit snippy too. But I actually thought, do you know what? I know where this road leads to. This is where I go and break again, and I'm not going down that road again. And that was the conversation that led me to find a hypnotherapist. I came across by pure chance, by the way. And I ended up having a whole series of sessions to help me deal with the stress and cope with it much better. So I didn't get snippy with the children. Or the husband for that matter. And that was what led me into hypnosis. I thought, this is a bit good, isn't it? Everybody should know about this.
Exactly. Everybody should know about it, including children.
Yes, absolutely. Interesting, isn't it?
So
and then I became a hypnotherapist.
So did you trained and then you handed in your notice, or did you work part-time and build up a practice?
No, I did. I was working part-time as a teaching while I was doing my training. And I did that for a few years, because at that particular, when you pick the right time, all right, and everybody else in the world, and not everybody else, there was a huge amount of people that would have gone, no, Helen, this is not the right time. You've got way too much on your plate. So at the time, I just started my hypnosis training. My mother had just been diagnosed with cancer. And to be fair, she was actually terminal, but we didn't find out for a little bit down the road. My daughter became pregnant with her first child, and I became seriously ill. but haven't done hypnosis. You know, so, but I swear to this day, and you know, hypnosis was the reason why I got through it all.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other reason. It was the main reason how I got through everything. With my sanity intact, I have to hasten to say as well. But yeah, very interesting year I have to say.
Yeah, it is amazing how it can make you focus, isn't it? When you're faced with adversity, how once you learn the techniques, how you can skirt around them, sort of thing.
Yeah. And you know, I was able to help my mum as well. You know, I gave her a little bit of comfort. She liked to, I did at least 1 or 2 recordings for her, and she used to like to listen to them. She took them into the hospice at the end when last couple of weeks she was in the hospice, and she took them in there, and she listened to them when she wanted to as well. So you know, it gave her a bit of comfort towards the end. Helped my dad as well, because there were times when, you know, understandably he was overwhelmed with everything that was going on. And it was something that took me out of that whole situation of everything that was going on. It took me out of that and gave me some space to think about something else for a time.
When your daughter had her baby, did she use hypnosis?
I don't remember. I don't think she did, actually. I think we were too busy with other things to even think about that. We didn't do that's in our training. We didn't do that.
Yeah, it's usually an add-on, but it's here it's the one thing that they know: smoking, and they know childbirth, and it's like those are the things it doesn't do anything else, you know. It's
right. Well, they're still catching on here.
You've probably met people who've used hypnosis. Well, I think the royal family of late has used it.
Yeah. Kate Middleton, bless her soul. She did us all a world of good when she said that she was having hypnosis for childbirth, because everybody then thought, well, I say everybody, that's a very generalization. People then thought, oh, well, if Kate Middleton's having hypnosis, it must be okay then.
Funnily enough, I was talking to a cousin of mine about the hypnotherapy work I do, because obviously I changed into this career a few years ago now, and her eldest son is 30, and she had hypnobirthing with him.
Yeah.
So you know, that's 30 years ago over here.
Yeah, I think like if you look at the history of hypnosis, it's got this huge wave, and it seems like it's really popular for 5 years, and then oh yeah, that works, let's ignore it, go for some new shiny object. And it's so silly, because really there's really no reason that we couldn't just learn this almost from birth. I mean, the first 6 or 7 years anyway, you're just, you know, I trust you, tell me stuff and I'll believe you. And they use their imaginations all the time. And if you know, it really would be helpful, I think, to teach it to teenagers, the amount of stress that teenagers are under.
Yeah. Well, I'm starting to see more and more teenagers coming through because they are so anxious and so stressed.
Because of COVID, or exacerbated by COVID. Teenagers have always had quite a bit of stress. It's hard to go through.
I think COVID's got a lot to do with it. I think being in isolation has got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I don't mean COVID itself, it's the ramifications of it. Yeah.
And I think the pressure to perform at exams has also got a lot to do with it as well. And of course, you've got to also understand, while they were, and people do forget this, while we were in COVID, certainly 2020, and the kids were not at school,
no school,
their education was massively hit, but they're still expected to perform, having missed a year or more or less a year, you know. So
particularly the kids, when it hit the exam cycles for the kids that were due to take their O-levels or A levels. And that was really,
I mean, if you think about it.
Sorry, say again?
So I'm just going to say, if you think about it, when you're very young, though, a year seems to last forever, doesn't it?
Huge amount of time.
And for the best part of 2 years, these kids were in lockdown of one form or another. It's like, for a lot of them, it's almost 20% of their lives, or a good 15% of their lives have been spent in lockdown.
Honestly, I think part of it was on and off all the time. Were we going to school this week or not? It is the uncertainty of it was so huge. It was bad enough for adults, but for young kids, there were children who, until they hit their second birthday, had never been out in company. They'd been with their parents in lockdown.
You know, and then of course after that, I then developed into, I used my teaching skills and developed into the training side of things as well. I do my own CPD training. So I create my own courses, things that I've developed myself, and I do training with those. But I also do the hypnosis training diploma. And
so tell me about the CPDs you've done, Helen. What are they about?
I tend to pick a particular topic. The biggest one that I do is the menopause one.
Okay,
that's the one I'm generally known for. That's good. I really love that one, mind. That came out of my own personal experience of having to have a hysterectomy, and I'm lying there thinking, I'm a hypnotherapist. I've not long qualified. I'm a hypnotherapist. I can do something about this. I'm not having out flushes. That ain't for me. That's not for me.
Oh, you were instant menopause. You went into instant menopause. You had the hysterectomy and that triggered. Okay. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No slow. Let's just boom. Yeah.
No, let's just go there. That does kind of fit in with my personality. All or nothing. So it did kind of fit when I thought about it afterwards. The best is though, the surgeon came in the next day to see me after I'd had my operation, and he said, "Oh yeah, it went really well, Helen." Blah 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 blah. And he said, "Yeah, I'd noticed that you didn't lose very much blood at all." And I'm sat there smiling to myself because I'm thinking, "Yes, that's because I did hypnosis on recovering before I had the surgery. That's before." And I thought, yeah, I know that. You didn't know that, but I do. But he just confirmed what I thought.
Are you mainly online, or do you see clients face to face a lot, or?
I do both. If you'd have asked me a month ago, I'd have said to you, the clients that I'm dealing with are about 95% face to face. Now we're sort of towards the end of January, it's swung back to kind of like a sort of either a 50-50 or a 60-40 kind of swing. It's very strange how that happens, but people have got more used to working online, which is a good thing, because we can all reach further now, not just our tight little community. So it has broadened the world up massively. So
yeah,
I tell you what, I had a recent recent experience of, Helen, a client that was having a course of hypnotherapy, and I think it was on week 4. They were away for a week on holiday. Not a problem. They still have the therapy that week on Zoom.
The best one is when you're in a hotel room and you've got the beach there and you're just doing a client.
Yeah.
And then you think, right, when I'm finished, I'm off to the beach. Nip out there.
But that, not perhaps for the client so much, but if the client is traveling, it also means they don't have to you don't have to deal with the traffic. I mean, obviously they're not going to come from the beach to see you, but also just the fact that it's easier to fit an hour session with you in without the half hour to get to you, the half hour to get back, the half hour to be stuck because Biden's traveling through, whatever else might, and the stress of that, which interferes really with that sort of integration.
Yeah. It is. Online is more convenient, like you say, because there is no traveling. It can be, oh well, I'm just logging out of work for an hour just while I have my session, and then I can log back in again. And you don't have to worry about finding your way there, parking, and all this stuff and the other that goes with it.
I obviously I can't forbid my clients to do things, but I do suggest that they put it at the end of the day. So if they're at work and they want to see me at 5 o'clock at work, they give themselves a half hour before they go get in their car, and to not put it in the middle of the day, because then they get all stressed out again. I mean, obviously I don't want to work all evening every evening, but I really try, the people that can't just chill at home for an hour, we really try to move it towards the evening. There's some people say, well, can you do 8 o'clock before I go to work? Why? Just sort of not wasted, but you're getting half of the effect really if you put all that stress right on top of it.
Yeah, you're not getting the chance to savor it and let it kick in. So what do you mainly see clients for, Helen?
Oh, now that varies. I don't know about you, but I tend to find they come in waves. So I tend to find I get a whole load of people for stress, whole load of people for menopause. It's almost like the signal goes out, right, we're all doing this time. Come on, off you come. And they all come in. And then I'll get a load for weight loss. and then I'll get the odd one or two for along the way for different things. But I do quite often find things do sort of coming up some waves. Now, whether that's because I've been concentrating on something or I've been marketing for that particular thing, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting thing how that happens sometimes.
Or especially with weight loss, though, recommendations, because somebody, starts losing weight and they tell their friends how they're doing it. Then
yeah,
that definitely helps.
Yeah.
Do you market in any particular format? Do you use Facebook, or do you run local ads or write blogs? What's your usual means of?
I'd love to write blogs. I'm very capable of writing blogs,
but somehow you don't.
But marketing usually is a multiple of strands. Throughout lockdown, every single client I had throughout the whole of COVID was all word of mouth. So that was a very interesting thing. I do get quite a few word of mouth stuff, which I'm sure we all do. Some of them come from Google, though I do need to do something about my adverts on Google at the moment. Some of it from social media. I do advertise in the local ad paper. It's lots of different things, and it should be lots of different strands that you market, not just one way. Because if one starts to fall for some reason, or
something else to pick
decreases for some reason, you've got others to back it up. If you're just marketing or relying solely on, let's say, word of mouth, for instance, then you may find that you might have a tricky spot along the way sometimes if that fails, unless you've got so many people recommending you all at the same time consistently.
Do you belong to any of the big networking groups other than the hypnotist ones? The BNIs of the world.
I used to belong to BNI. I stepped out of that during COVID, actually. I had so much stuff on at home, so much stuff that I was doing and developing, that I couldn't really give it the credit that it needed and the attention that it needed without dropping the ball on something else that I was working on for my own business. So I stepped away for a while. How about you?
I belonged to one of the local chambers, which got me to get to know quite a lot of people. I've dropped back from it now. I'm pretty sure the gentleman who runs it wouldn't be watching this, so I can say mostly because he mansplained and drove me mad. I'm still quite friendly with several of those people. So there's little mostly Facebook groups of locals. So there's some interaction. You'll meet them at the shop as well as feeding them online for a group meeting. So that and thankfully this YouTube, my own, I have Myth Magic Medicine, which is two doctors talking, where I interview another physician about whatever the physician wants to talk about, but sometimes we get around to hypnosis too, it's fine. And then Facebook and word of mouth. And Google My Business is I get a lot. I'm finally getting people from further afield. It's interesting. It was right around where I live, and then it just got a bit bigger to the rest of the state. Now we've dropped down to Virginia, so that's good. Waves.
Good. But what about you, Martin?
Well, I do this podcast with Denise, of course, and I do my local newspaper column.
Lovely.
Yeah, I've been doing that almost a year now. Even though it was only supposed to be for a month.
Wow.
And then I've recently joined into a private mental health care clinic. So I'm working from there they've got 9 consultant psychiatrists and other therapists in there, like CBT and that kind of thing. But I'm the only hypnotherapist there. So I'm getting in-house referrals, plus they do a lot of advertising and things. So I'm getting, the business that way. And other than that, I am on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook.
Right.
So what are you saying, Denise?
No, you're right. I forgot I have a radio thing too, which is just a once a month thing. So I think those things are just gradually picking it up. I don't like to do paid advertising. It hurts me when I do paid advertising. I'm a rich
Well, you know, this thing with social media these days, because in advertising, they used to talk about above the line and below the line. Above the line was what you paid for, and below the line was anything you didn't pay for, and you had to use a bit of thinking power. You know, whether that was sending 50 faxes out to people's fax machines or something. I mean, social media is all below the line, isn't it? Unless you choose to pay for it and get a bigger coverage. But that's all it is. It's just using your imagination and ingenuity to reach people below the line.
Yeah, depends on how big your groups are and whether people want to share. If they say something interesting enough, they'll share it.
Yeah.
Attach your post to a really beautiful picture of a cat. Maybe it'll move.
I was just going to say, the cat. I use my cat. She gets more attention than I ever do. I have to say, you know, I put a picture up of Molly being groomed, and it immediately reaches hundreds of people. I'm like, wow,
it's funny, Helen. You're talking about teaching and cats. A couple of weeks ago, I was doing some work in schools with a charity on diversity and inclusion, and part of the presentation was putting all these photographs up on the screen of me and my life. And with the class of 5 to 6 year olds, every single question: who's the cat? What's the cat called? How old's the cat? They didn't want to know about anything else. It was all about the cat. Yeah, Bengal.
And it usually would be in the room too, so I'm not sure.
She's usually singing to us.
Molly's still having a post tea snooze.
I inherited my Bengal 10 years ago when my mum died, and at that time she was 10. And if you read all the books, they say average lifespan of a Bengal 12 to 15 years. She's 20 this coming May, and she still looks exactly the same as when she was 10. And typical Bengal, you know, they sing all night, sleep all day, and they try and rule the roost.
Yeah.
But she's in peak of health. She doesn't look like a 20-year-old cat.
Well, Molly's a Norwegian forest cross with something else. She's a big furball.
That's big, like it's like a Maine Coon sort of size, right there.
Yes, she's very similar to a Maine Coon. She's got little stumpy legs, so she's got little tiny stumpy legs. She is beautiful. But she was a stray that turned up one night. It's a bit of a kind of like a typical Disney story. She turned up, it was tipping down with rain. She was drenched, little miserable thing. She was only tiny and she's meowing. Claire's crying, I'm crying. Colin's going, let the bloody cat in. We don't feed it. You know, of course we're going to feed it. And that was sort of back in 2010, and she's still here. She's not far off yours age, actually. She's 18 this year. And she didn't look 18. Even the vet keeps saying, are you sure she's 18? As I'm positive. So
yeah. Well, when we first took her to our local vet here, because we moved back into this house a few years ago, we took her to the vets then, and he read a microchip, and he was like, surprised how old she was, because obviously the date's on the microchip, isn't it, from when she was first registered. She's a total nightmare. She tries to rule the roost, but she knows exactly how to play you. They can play you like a fiddle. She can absolutely play you like a fiddle. And my other half's 10 times softer than me, and she runs rings around him, and he's stupid enough to let her.
My husband, the one that said, well, you can let her in, but I'm having nothing to do with her.
Lasted
Check
5
out
minutes.
Molly's Facebook page.
Yeah, I'm going to say, are they sleeping together on the sofa?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She climbs upon his chest. She sticks her nose on his nose. They have a conversation. They have cuddles. And oh, my God. God, I love it.
Oh, no. We're nearly at the end of our recording time. Let's talk about some more hypnosis for a minute or two before we have to go.
I think we have a cat. She's the absolute perfect hypnotist. She looks at you with those eyes.
And that, I think, should be the title of this one. I think it should be Helen Breward, Hypnosis and Cats.
Yeah, why not? Why not? This is the whole thing, though, Helen. Every conversation is just a conversation. And you'd be surprised at some of the viewing and listening figures on some of the way out conversations. All we want to get across to people is hypnotists, hypnotherapists are regular, normal people who've just chosen to go into this kind of helping profession. We want to remove that mystique, and get away from people who think it's the dark arts or swinging watches or whatever.
Right, or worse, cloaks.
We had that conversation about the swinging watch, and everybody, like you say, there are people that think, oh yeah, it's that mystical swinging watch, and I go, no, the watch is purely to grab your attention. That's all it's for.
Yeah.
It's just
the daft thing is, Helen, before I became a hypnotherapist, I was a jeweler, a bespoke jeweler for 20 odd years. So look what I have in my drawer. But nothing to do with hypnosis.
Oh dear. Oh,
at heart, he's an Edwardian.
Actually normal people. Well, I'd say normal people.
Well, we're as normal as everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Right.
but the best thing, right? You can imagine the picture, and I swear to you, I do this not all the time, but I do it sometimes. So I'll be sat in my office. I've got a client sat in front of me. We're having a lovely conversation about God knows what. And once people get to know me quite well, I obviously have a thinking face. All right. Now that thinking face while I'm doing therapy is me arguing with myself. So, and they'll say to me, this one chap said to me one day, what's going on in your head, Helen? I thought, you'll be sorry you asked that question in a second. And I said, well, it's like this. Said, I've got part of me going, we should do this, we can do that, we can do the other. I said, and then there's the other side of me goes, no, we need to do this. And then this bit's going, no, we can do that. And I said, and this is how it goes on in my head. And he's going, I think we should swap places.
That's lovely.
And I said, no, I'm just working through exactly what to do with you and how to do it. That's all I'm working through.
Yeah, you got to reason it out. I mean, how you sort of have your own inner communications. Everybody's unique anyway. Reasoning things out, arguing things out, perfectly normal. Is in my book anyway.
Absolutely.
100% of therapists agree. Hypnotherapists are normal. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Helen, thank you for coming on. That has gone far too quickly. You'll have to come on another one with us.
Oh, yeah.
That has gone far too quickly, but thank you for coming on. We're going to put your contact details in the show notes below. So anybody wants to get in touch with you directly and talk to you about having hypnotherapy can do. But thank you very, very much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Oh, very welcome. And thank you so much for having me, indulging me.
We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
If you found this episode useful, you can apply for free continuing professional development or CME credits using the link provided in the show notes. Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.